Welcome back, everybody, to TME. I'm obviously in my sleeper. It's kind of a weird, different kind of angle, but I figured I'd try something different. I have a lot of catching up to do with this new job that I have and how things are going. I'm sure maybe some of you might be a little bit curious. I kind of just shut all of my truck driving stuff down for the SH2 project, which it's almost finished, guys. I've got about 4 more videos in the works that I want to make with that, so I'll go ahead and get that out of the way real quick. So I have to do the finale for the original and the remake, which is going to require 2 additional videos. And then I did such a poor job with parts of the game that I actually want to do like 2 different retrospective videos on both games. I overlooked a lot of stuff, and well, there's a lot of stuff with the remake that I didn't really touch on very much, didn't address. Like I said before, guys, it's a new game, just came out almost 2 months ago, so I didn't have a whole lot of analysis in mind as far as just, looking at the game itself standalone and breaking things down and thinking about how I would interpret things in the new game without basing it off of the original game. And because of that, I didn't really go into a lot of depth or lore or anything else whenever I was playing the remake. I kind of set myself up for making myself look really dumb with responding to a comment. When the person sent me that comment, they made a really good point, and it was such a good point that I actually made an exclusive video about the comment that the person left me about the new game. And well, I described where they were coming from, and got into that a little bit, and I said that I disagreed with them. I'm going to talk more about this in my retrospect video about the remake game. I have a lot that I want to say about the new game, but none of that really pertains to this video. I want to give you an update about my job and how things are going with me and how I feel about my new job, because there's a lot to say about it, and you guys, you don't get to see me working anymore. You don't get to see what's going on in my daily life when I'm doing my job anymore. And frankly, guys, it's probably it's probably for the better that I haven't filmed yet. This company is extremely safety conscious, safety oriented, and basically, I already made a video talking about how big truck driving companies are practically religious when it comes to safety and the high expectations. And then the next thing I did is I went straight to one of those big companies and applied for a job, and surprisingly enough, they actually gave me a job. So yes, you're looking at a truck driver that failed a drug test in 2023, did 5 steps of the SAP program, and then spent over a year finishing the 6th and final step, all while working for a tiny company that I would say hired me specifically for that reason, because they knew how desperate I was for a job, and they knew that there were things that they could probably get away with that most drivers wouldn't put up with. I put up with it for over a year, but it was necessary because that's what got me through the SAP program. So you're looking at a SAP driver that's no longer in the program. However, I do have it on my record, and I will have it on my record for the next, well, how long has it been now? I'm going to say a little over 3.5 years it'll be on my record. And I'll be either working for a company like this one, or I'll be working for a company like the one I walked away from. And honestly, that's kind of the breakdown deal of what it's like and how it's been, and what I'm up against. I'm not out of the woods yet. I wouldn't say that I am. However, I am saying that there are aspects about this new job that I'm really appreciating, really enjoying, perks and things that I really missed. Like, for example, having modern equipment. This truck is extremely nice. Like I've said in the past, there's also things about this truck that are incredibly annoying. And the fact that I am still a little on the fence on whether or not I should actually make any videos while I'm driving, at least with the GoPro on my head, I'm a little iffy about that. Don't really know if I should pull that trigger or not. I think I'd be taking a risk if I did. When it wouldn't take much for them to realize, since they got a camera pointed at me while I'm behind the wheel. If they realized that I had a GoPro and I was, talking to it, making videos while I was driving, I really don't know what they would say about that. The fact that it was on my head. Now, it is hands-free, obviously, but at the same time, with them being so safety conscientious and, like I said, almost downright religious, if not religious, with it, I don't know. It's hard to say. Would I be putting my job at risk? Maybe, but maybe not. I mean, they do let you make phone calls because they are watching you on camera. They will actually allow us to have headsets and make phone calls as long as it's hands-free. So maybe they would just say the same thing to me about the camera. Like, as long as the camera's hands-free, you're not holding it. It's just like a phone. Like, you're allowed to talk on the phone while you're driving. Just don't touch your phone. Use the headset. Use voice commands or whatever else. I'm pretty sure that the actual law is that if it's like a one-touch button kind of thing, almost like a truck GPS, then it's fine. There's also the concern about keeping the company itself that I work for hush-hush and not exposing this company to YouTube. And so there's also stuff like that I have to worry about. And I also have to be careful about what I say. Even if you guys do happen to figure out what company this is, which is not going to be really difficult for you to do that if I start making videos on a regular basis. It won't be hard for you guys to figure it out. You guys are smart. I'm sorry that this video is absolutely unscripted and I'm just doing this off the top of my head, but I figured, it's better than just leaving you in the dark completely. How am I liking this job? Well, the fact that I am not doing flatbed anymore, I'm doing intermodal, it's a big difference. It used to be, with the flatbed job, if I had to go pick a load up, my first question is, am I going to have to tarp the load? Am I going to have to chain the load? How much labor am I going to put into this load whenever I go pick it up? How long is it going to take for me to get it legal and safe to get on the road with it? Sometimes, I'm not going to lie, guys, depending on what I was picking up, sometimes it would take me over 2 hours to do the manual labor to get the load roadworthy before I could even get it out on the road and start making money. And as you guys know, my income on my last job was 25% of total payout for each load that I did. And a lot of those loads were paying very low because of the freight recession. There was so much demand out there for loads that the brokers and signers, all of it, all the contracts that were made up for loads, especially in the past year, it's been really bad. Hopefully things will improve. There was just a surplus of companies out there looking for work and not enough work to go around. So whenever the market is looking like that, it always brings the price to haul freight down even more. It's like placing bids, on jobs. Like whoever takes the least amount of money to haul this load is the one that's going to get the load. And so that really limits what you're able to do. And see, my boss, my last company, like, he wasn't doing the work. I was doing the work. So I guess that's the way that he saw it. Well, I'm not tarping that stuff. My employees tarping that stuff. So I'll just take a load for a lower rate to make it easier for me to keep income coming in, and I'll just give my driver 25% of the payout on the load, and he might have to tarp it, but oh freaking well, if he has to tarp it, that's just the way it is. There's not a lot of work right now. And so sometimes he was like that. Sometimes he would just find loads that, required a lot of work, a lot of manual labor that weren't paying that well. And I had to do it over and over and over and over again. I was working so hard and not making that much money. I would make the mileage, sure. And this, what I'm about to tell you about this job, kind of confirms that I was doing all that manual labor that flatbed drivers do, but I wasn't getting compensated for it. I was just getting compensated for the miles. And I can kind of confirm to you guys now that that's absolutely the case, because the job that I'm doing now, it's intermodal. The most manual labor I've got to do on a load now is make sure that it's got a freaking seal on the trailer when I pick it up from the rail yard or from the customer going to the rail yard. That, and making sure that my locks on the chassis are the anchors, they're locked in place to hold the container on the chassis so it doesn't tip over whenever I make a turn. That's the most manual labor that I'm doing in this job, besides, a standard pre-trip. Although it did get kind of interesting, because that last video that I made when I was on the side of the interstate, that was a little interesting, and that was like a reminiscent flashback of my previous job, because the tire technician that came out to fix my flat tire left the tire that busted, like the tread came off of it. The tire just pretty much disintegrated while I was driving down the interstate, and the freaking tread part of the tire got wrapped around the freaking axle of the trailer, and he just left it like that. And he was gonna leave, and I was like, dude, the freaking tread for the tire, it's like wrapped around my trailer axle. I can't leave like that. It's gonna catch on fire. And he's like, oh, it'll come out. It'll come out when you're driving down the interstate. And I was like, even if it does, it might bust somebody's windshield, He was just going to leave it like that. And I was like, nah, man. Nah, you can't do that. And then he got mad. And he was like, man, it took me like 2 hours to get one of these out last week. And I was like, I'm sorry, it's your job. And then I did feel kind of sorry for him. So, he got underneath the trailer to start trying to twist it out and work it out and pull on it and pry on it with a crowbar. And I mean, it was really in there. It was like, I don't know if you guys have ever had a blowout where you had part of your tire get wrapped around your axle, but it was bad. And I got under there with him, and I helped him pull it out. And I got dirty. I was on the freaking asphalt. I had freaking vehicles like half a foot away from my head going 70 miles an hour down the freaking interstate. But I helped him. And eventually he got a chain out, and he actually, part of it was so wedged up in there that he had to hook a chain up to it and hook the other end up to his bumper and like pull it out with his truck. But we did get it out. So far, that's been the most intensive labor I've had to do with this job. But I will say that I haven't had a job like this since 2021, which when I say like this, I just mean like a no-touch freight job where you're just exclusively driving. And there's a reason why I stopped doing these kinds of jobs back then, is because the last job I had like this, I was extremely dissatisfied with the income. It was a local dedicated job. I was hauling corrugated boxes for the company Westrock, just making deliveries around Atlanta. It was all driving. It was a lot of live unloads and stuff, but it was extremely boring, and it was extremely long hours, and it didn't pay well. Well, right after that, I had this temp agency reach out to me. Initially, they told me about the tobacco job, the one that I got after being a temp for a whole year, and, the one that I lost for failing the drug test. Initially, they told me about that job, and they're like, yeah, man, it pays $25 an hour. You typically only work 40 hours a week. And I was thinking, well, man, I'm working like 65 hours a week right now, and I'm not even making that much now. So I was like, yeah, I'm interested in that for sure. By the time, they got back with me, he was like, well, turns out, we had another one of our temp employees get that position, but I do have this food service position. Maybe you can take the food service one temporarily, and then when there's any other openings over here at the tobacco hauling company, I'll let you know and you can get in like that. Well, he was like, the good news about the food service job is that it pays $28 an hour, and you're going to be working more than 40 hours a week, so you're going to get a lot of overtime. And that's how it happened, guys. That's when I really discovered that touch freight jobs are my preference. I like to work. I like to drive too, but if all I'm doing is driving, then like I said, it gets boring. I get restless. It gets unbearable, especially when you've got a lot of safety stuff monitoring you, and you're kind of tense. You're kind of stressed out about that because you don't want to get, in trouble. If somebody in a vehicle around you does something stupid and it messes you up, you guys know the deal. You truck drivers out there, I'm sure you know how frustrating it is knowing when you got a camera watching you and you've got all these sensors and you have to worry about the traffic around you setting you up or doing something stupid and causing, like, for instance, your forward-facing radar to go off. And then it flags it, and then you get some kind of like yellow card or something on your safety record, or they bring you in for a slap on the wrist to tell you, you're not doing it right. You need to watch your following distance, this, that, all the above. So you guys know how it goes. I miss doing the touch freight thing, and the fact that touch freight jobs usually pay more than the no touch freight jobs. I do miss that. If I had an opportunity to get a schedule similar to the one I have right now with a touch freight job that wasn't as intensive as food service, because guys, keep in mind, my freaking knee is limited. I got, like I said, I had a total meniscectomy 10 years ago, so they took my medial meniscus out of my knee. I don't have that cartilage there anymore. I was told whenever they did the surgery that, you might have about 10 years to use your knee before you need to have a partial knee replacement. That's what they told me when they did the surgery. They're like, we can't do anything else for you. That's just the way it is. Well, it was 10 years ago, and I'm still walking. I'm still getting around. I don't think I'm going to have surgery, but if I'm doing stuff like intensive manual labor, like food service or even flatbed, that's another reason why I had to get out of flatbed, is because I was really feeling it. This past July, just hopping up and down off that trailer, picking the tarp up, carrying the tarps, I could really feel it in my knee. I also had an ACL replacement. And so I don't know, sometimes I'll take a step this way or that way and I can just feel my whole knee shifting. And if if it shifts the wrong way, then it's like my knee gets pissed off. It gets all this inflammation in it, and I'll be in pain for hours and hours and hours at a time after that. So I got to be careful. But that's why I would say that the tobacco job, that's another reason why it was perfect for me, because it was touch freight. But the tobacco, pulling that off the trailer, sorting it out, all that stuff, it wasn't that intensive. It was pretty easy. I always backed up to docks. I didn't have to worry about hand trucks or running this and that up and down a ramp like you do when you do food service. And so it was pretty easy. It wasn't bad at all, and it paid so well. I've come to know, and I've done enough of this and that in the trucking industry to actually realize and understand what I like and what I appreciate. I haven't done everything, I'm kind of curious and kind of fascinated about car carrying. I know there's a lot of skill that's involved with that. You got to know what you're doing, and I'm sure it's hard as hell in the beginning, but it probably pays as well as food service, I would imagine, depending on the kind of work that you do. I mean, even the freaking hotshot car haulers that, you know, pick up cars from auctions and stuff like that, even they get paid pretty good, as far as I can tell, you know, from what I understand. So yeah, I'm kind of interested in stuff like that. I've never hauled tanker either. That's another thing. Like, I made a video this past summer and I was talking to you guys about those Class B pump trucks. And I asked the question, I was like, does anybody know how much those guys make? You know, they drive the straight trucks, Class B trucks, and they're like pumps. Well, I just saw a job online about a position, a local position in my area, driving one of those Class B pump trucks. And it's another thing that it's like for the food service industry, where they go around and they pump like old grease out of vats at restaurants and stuff. The bad thing about that is that it said you have to have a year of experience with a pump truck, which I don't have, but you know, it paid like $27 an hour. It said you might get some overtime, and it's all local. So I'm really interested in stuff like that. You know, in my opinion, as a truck driver, the less I have to work and the more I can make in anything that involves like another aspect other than just driving. If I can combine some other skill with driving, that's what I really appreciate. I don't think I ever talked to you guys about this, but I used to work for a dry cleaning supply warehouse back in, it was after I walked away from my job at Schneider, so it was like 2019. Started at the beginning of 2019. I worked in the warehouse, I worked in the office, and I also drove their trucks. I was a delivery route driver. I like filled in for the drivers that, you know, when they didn't come to work, I would do their route for them. And that was kind of like food service, but it was Class B, and they had lift gates, and I would deliver to like laundromats and dry cleaners, and a lot of heavy lifting, like chemicals and hangers and all this like heavy boxes, heavy, you know, those like 55-gallon drums. Some of that stuff weighs like up to 500 pounds, and you're putting it on a hand truck and moving it into a dry cleaner. So, I mean, I like I said, anything like that, that as long as it's not too intensive for my knee, I'm interested in doing stuff like that. I actually found a job tonight. I was looking at, you know, emails and stuff, and I realized that Schneider, you know, the company that I don't like, they're actually offering a local position in my area for flatbed drivers right now, which is kind of interesting. I never knew Schneider did flatbed, but it's like a dedicated flatbed job where it says hauling logs on a flatbed, and I don't know how that would work, but that's what it says. I don't know. But that job, you know, said it paid between like $1,400 to $1,500 a week. It didn't say if it was 5 or 6 days a week, though. It didn't specify with that, but apparently it's local, dedicated, which that's actually what I want. I want something local, dedicated, that pays well, that involves some other type of work besides just driving. I appreciate this job for what it is, but I'll be honest with you, it's kind of boring. You know, getting back to how it compares with my last job, I'm glad that I made the choice that I made. It has been kind of frustrating adjusting back to being monitored all the time and having a slow truck and all that. But, you know, everything else, the fact that I have terminals I can go to now, I can go take a shower at the terminal. You know, I've got the technology, I've got this driving app, I've got all this stuff to make the job easier. It's nice. Not that I'm looking for things to complain about, but it is kind of, sometimes it is kind of frustrating going to rail yards and stuff like that. If you guys are familiar with intermodal, you spend a lot of time going in and out of rail yards. And sometimes, there's so many trucks coming in and out of those places. We have like apps on our phones that will create like a QR code for us to scan when we go in and out of the gate. Well, sometimes that app goes down like it did today. And when that happens, you have to do everything manually. You have to check in and check out manually. And so things get backed up. You spend a lot of time waiting in line. Also, when you go near those rail yards, a lot of times you get stuck on the road because there's a train blocking the road. And I've sat for like 3 hours before waiting for the road to clear out because of a train. And this company, they will pay you for stuff like that, but they're really picky about how you leave a paper trail. Like if you don't constantly keep them updated with your status whenever you're being held up for stuff like that, then they won't pay you. Like you have to leave straight up hard evidence stating that, you were delayed here, you were delayed there, or they won't pay you for it. Even if you break down, you have to communicate with them really well, which is kind of ironic because they don't communicate with me very well. I think they have really bad communication in the office. And the management, I'm not real sad. Like I'm not impressed with their management at all. It's actually, it's not horrible, but I've definitely had better. I've had way better management with other jobs. But everything else, guys, I can't really complain. I don't have anything to complain about. This is a comfortable truck. I've got a nice mattress. They're not giving me a hard time whenever it gets a little warm in this truck and I want to start it up. I want to idle it, turn the AC on so that I can get some sleep. They don't give me a hard time about that at all. They do keep up with your idling percentage, but they don't, basically, here's the way they got it set up. So if it's over 70 degrees outside, your truck will stay on. It'll idle. If it's below 40 degrees outside, your truck will stay on. It'll idle. And then you also got this bunk heater right here, which, it's all right. It's decent. It's not diesel powered. It's electric or whatever. So I don't really know what it's doing to my batteries. If I run it for 10 hours, I haven't figured that out yet. It hasn't really been cold enough yet to use it like that. But yeah, it's nice. And the fact that, because they are watching you on camera, they don't care if you make a phone call while you're driving as long as it's hands-free. But they're serious about that kind of stuff. If you go to reach for your phone while you're driving, they're going to see it. You can't be sneaky about that at all. They will know. And it's because of the AI monitoring that they have. Last thing I'll say, is the money better than it was at my last job? Not really. Not really. In some ways, but yes, in other ways. I'd say that potentially it could be better. It could be better than what it is. I had a bumpy start, and I've been working, independently. I got out of training and started working maybe the last week of October, and I've been working every week since. And I've had a really bumpy start. I've had equipment issues. I've had loads canceled. I've had loads taken off of me. A lot of layover. Some downtime for this. Some downtime for that. And like I said, I didn't realize how picky they were about compensating you for certain things. So I didn't necessarily do it the right. When I reported the activity to get paid for, I didn't necessarily do it right at first, so I didn't get paid for some things that I could have gotten paid for. Another thing is with the holidays and stuff, Like they're having a hard, they're kind of slow right now, so they're having a hard time actually keeping me running, keeping me busy. And so they got me doing like oddball stuff. They got me doing weird stuff. Like today I had to drive from Fairburn down to Macon, and then they just, after that, they deadheaded me all the way out here to Savannah. Empty trailer. I came all the way out here to Savannah, which, keep in mind, guys, that's almost 200 miles of deadhead, so that I can come and pick a load up and haul it 9 miles to the rail yard in Savannah. I'm getting paid for the deadhead, so I'm not worried about it. I'm getting paid the same amount whether I got a loaded or empty trailer, so that's fine. But I'm just saying, like, it's really weird. They make me come all the way out here to pick a load up to take it 9 miles to the rail yard in Savannah. I'm picking the load up in Port Wentworth, which is just north of Savannah, and then I'm taking it down to the rail yard, the CSX ramp in Savannah. So it's just weird stuff like that. Then I'm picking a load up from CSX, same place, and I'm taking it like 20 miles north to Rincon, Georgia. So, you know, they're doing weird stuff like that because of the holiday, I think, and things just kind of slowed down. And it's gonna slow down. I mean, we're headed toward that time of the year where freight's gonna slow down, especially at the beginning of the year. Yeah, it's gonna be, it always is. Like, if you guys are truck drivers, you know what I'm talking about. It always slows down in January, and it's probably the worst part of the year as far as, you know, productivity goes. But they promised me, I'll just be straight up honest with you guys, the recruit promised, or basically guaranteed, that I'd be making $1,400 a week to work 5 days for this company. That hasn't happened yet. I mean, I did get kind of close. I think maybe it was my second or third week working. I made like 13 and some change. But that was the only week I got that close to what they guaranteed I would make. So, am I making more than I made with the flatbed job? Yeah, I mean, I am, especially when you consider that I'm not working like I was before. I think I am making more, but at the same time, I'm not making that much more. But also, I'm getting insurance, I'm getting benefits, I'm getting all the stuff that I was talking about, how I needed so desperately. I finally have benefits. And they're not like extremely good. They're not like jaw-droppingly good, but they're pretty freaking good. They're so good that my wife actually dropped her insurance at her job and she signed on with what I've got. It's Cigna. So it's really good insurance, but it's not exactly cheap. I mean, I think our premium is like almost $200 a week for me, my wife, and my 2 kids. So the fact that I am paying that premium, it's coming out of my paycheck every week, and I'm still able to bring home, you know, a certain amount, it's not horrible. I'm definitely not going to complain about it, especially after, you know, what I've went through in the past year. So guys, if anything, my final point that where I'm going to land is, I'm going to say you guys can be happy for me, even though I haven't shown you the job yet. I might figure something else out as far as the camera goes, the GoPro. I might be able to like mount it somewhere, but you guys are going to be so bored with that I don't even know if I should do that or not. You guys were already bored with what I was doing before with the camera on my head, and you guys were saying that my videos were too long. So if I take the camera off of my head and I just put it in a static place where it's never moving, that's going to be even worse. So what should I do, guys? Let me know. Leave a comment. And thank you for watching. I will update you again. SH2 Project. Yeah, like I said, the holidays are coming up. I'm extremely busy when I'm on home time. So I don't know for sure when I'm going to make those last 4 videos, the ones I was talking about. I don't know when that's going to happen. I'll try to make it be sooner than later, but I can't make any promises, really. I mean, I'm excited to finish it. I'm excited to come up with my conclusions on the games and telling you how I feel about them. I went to all the trouble to look into both games, and I mean, I've got at this point probably at least 12 hours of content for each game, for both games on my channel. So I need to finish it. I don't need to just leave it hanging. So I'll see what I can do. I'll see what I can do about that. But I apologize in saying, as far as right now goes, that it's going to take a while, guys. There's going to be a gap with the SH2 project, and I'm really sorry about that. But I will finish it eventually. I'm happy, okay? I'm happy. And I can genuinely say that. I feel blessed. I'm happy. I'm much happier than I was previously. And I know that I can only improve from here. If I keep this attitude, if I keep pushing myself, if I keep, aiming for better things, and, the more positive that I can speak about things, the better off I'm going to be. Your words have power. So I'm claiming right now, I'm saying that it's only going to get better from here. Things are looking up. So guys, be happy for me. Thanks for watching. Thanks for your interest. I'll see you next time. All right. Later.